Hey guys, some of you might be noticing that the gun nut videos have been getting progressively more determined, and the reason for that is the first couple were really sort of just a bit of a laugh, you know, pointing at the gun nuts and laughing, but the reaction that it's come from the gun nuts has just really strengthened my resolve, and it's got stronger and stronger, and for a number of reasons. One is the reasons and the lack of logic. The first video we had was a Jim Jeffries one where he basically laid out a whole heap of logical arguments for why he wouldn't want guns, and even some gun owners have said that the things he said were intelligent and well thought out. But the responses are just incredibly irrational, and nothing anybody has said has been a reasonable argument for why guns are necessary. And again, if there was a good argument for why a society full of guns is a good idea, the rest of the world would be trying to do the same thing. The rest of the world, and this is something that a lot of people don't seem to get, a lot of gun nuts don't seem to understand. America is less than 5% of the world's population, and the gun nuts are about half of the people in America think that the guns are a great idea. So that's like 2.5% of the world's population or less that think that guns are a great idea. And I mean, there is some nuts in other countries too that think they're great, but overall, when you look at the political systems and the rules that we've got in our different countries, you know, most of the civilized world have decided that we don't need guns, and most of the civilized world would say, why would we want guns in our society? And if the American experiment with guns was a great success, the rest of the world would be looking and saying, what a great success that's been. And we copy so much, you know, the rest of the world copies so much other stuff from the States that we look at and think's a good thing. But why is it the gun thing? We don't copy that, and there's a reason for that. We look at the amount of crime in America, we look at what the guns are doing to America, and it's the last thing in the world that you're going to do is look at what's happening there and say, gee, that's a great idea, let's have some of that, let's hand out some guns. It's just so irrational. So the reaction from the gun nuts has just strengthened my resolve, you know. You know, guys, the whole gamut, from the reasonable people saying, look, you know, they're reasonable points, but no, I still think I should have my guns, and very reasonable responses. And you can't argue with that, everybody's entitled to an opinion, to the extreme ones where they're saying you should be shot. Which is pretty disturbing, isn't it, that the gun nuts, there's gun nuts out there with guns, with attitudes that somebody who says something they don't like should be shot. And those people are just a classic argument for why they shouldn't have guns. And not just the ones that are that extreme either, but a lot of the others are so irrational, so aggressive, so angry, so scared. That's the underlying feeling, is they're so scared of everybody around them and the thought of living without a gun, that they're scared to death, you know, and so small-minded. It's incredible how small-minded a lot of these people are, how little they understand. Some of the points that I have, usually I don't argue with gun nuts, but a couple of them I've pointed things out, like, you know, you do know that 95% of the world, you know, doesn't have guns or want guns, and they'll react, what are you talking about? No idea. First of all, no idea that America is less than 5% of the world's population, and they're no idea about what goes on in the other countries. They always come at countries like, yeah, you're in your country, you're not allowed to have guns, and you're not allowed to have guns, so you're oppressed by your repressive government, and all this sort of shit that they read off the internet. Well, first of all, I don't know what country they think I live in, but whether you're talking about Australia or Japan, great places to live. Great places to live. Don't need a gun here. Like I've said before, if you said to Japanese people, would you like a gun? They'd say, why? Why would I want a gun? I don't want a gun. Why would I want a gun? They don't even think about it. It's not. These gun nuts have been so programmed from when they were born by their family members and by all the people around them, have programmed them into believing this shit that if you don't have guns, you don't have freedom, and that reverse thinking that you need to have a gun, and that anyone that says that you don't need to have a gun is somehow stopping you having your freedom, whereas in actual fact, the rest of the world has our freedoms and doesn't even think about guns. You know, the lack of understanding of the world, you know, America is not a lot of these guys just think that it's all in one little bubble. It's not. I mean, America's made up of people that have come from all over the world, the same as Australia and New Zealand and Canada and a lot of other countries. There's no difference in the core of the people. They're people. And again, just touching on this, that's why when these dicks, occasionally I get a dick getting all emotional, you've got no right, that's that about Jim Jeffries too, you've got no right to have an opinion on this. Well, really? That's an amazing thing coming from an American when you've got, you know, America's always first to have opinions on other countries and what other countries should do, and in actual fact they'll send their military in to enforce what they think other countries should do. So if a couple of Australian people or English people or French people want to have an opinion, they're entitled to have an opinion. We've got our rights to free speech too. And as comfortable as American people are with expressing opinions on whatever else they want to express their opinion on around the world, the rest of us have a right too. As a human being, you know, there's a number of Americans I love. You know, there's Americans in my life that I really care about, and then there's just other Americans that I care about. You know, it's those half the American population who are reasonable, good people. It's those 16,000 victims of murder a year in America that I'm concerned about, because those people are usually innocent people. Occasionally you get gangsters killing each other, but usually the people that get killed from guns are usually innocent people. You know, let's take the gangsters out of the statistics and the people who shoot themselves out of the statistics, and the ones that are left are just innocent people. And if the person hadn't had a gun, they'd had a baseball bat or a knife, there'd be so many of those people who'd be still alive. It's just such a tragedy. It really is. It's a terrible thing. And as a human being, I have a right to feel about that, and I have a right to say something about that. It's just a terrible, terrible thing. You know, that, oh, you're anti-American, you shouldn't have an opinion. Well, if I was anti-American, I'd support the guns. You know, like the terrorist must. The terrorists, I've said this before, the terrorists who hate Americans must be sitting around laughing their asses off. You know, they'd be better off, instead of planting bombs, they'd be better off handing out guns. Go to the States and hand out guns on the street. Because, you know, the terrorists aren't killing 16,000 Americans a year. Americans are killing 16,000 Americans a year. The terrorists, they can sit home and watch TV, watch CNN and laugh their asses off. Every time there's another gun massacre in the States by another American, it's like, well, check them out. They're doing a better job killing each other than we are. They'd be better off staying home watching TV and eating pizza, you know. So the point of this video is, first thing is, I'm amazed how emotional the gun nets get, how insecure they are about their gun thing. You know, they've been attracted to that Jim Jeffries video that I posted, the comedian one talking about guns. I called it the answer to gun nuts, or the best answer to gun nuts, or something like that. There's 27,000 views on that so far. It's not monetized, by the way. I'm not making any money out of that. But the 27,000 views out of that, and boy, don't they get emotional. It seems that gun nuts spend a lot of time on YouTube looking for anti-gun nut videos that they can get emotional about, and geez, don't they get emotional and angry. And so that's the first thing I noticed, which means we can't be intimidated by that. You know, I mean, these guys are on the internet. That's why they're so bloody scary and tough. You know, they're on the internet. That's why they're all aggressive and, oh, you should die and you should be shot. And you know, it's because they're on the internet and they're anonymous, so they can play the tough guy. That's all they can do is write words. So the first point I wanted to make was, don't be intimidated by that. If you're a reasonable person and you've got an opinion about the guns, you know, again, I explained this in the last video, I'm not going to make this channel a platform for gun nuts to spout their pointless crap, because that's one thing I've noticed in these videos. It's an endless cycle of repeating the same shit that they've heard, and they don't think about any of it, and they don't check to see if any of it's actually right. And none of them have ever travelled, it seems. None of them have ever been outside America to see that all the shit they're saying isn't right. You don't need a gun for freedom. You know, guns don't make societies better. All the shit that they say is just all bullshit. You know, we need guns to protect against tyrannical governments and all that sort of shit. Around the world's full of countries where they've had tyrannical governments. Now they've got free democracies and no guns are involved. Yeah, it's true. It's true. Check it out. You know, do some research, they say. One fuckwit said, they often say that, do some research. And I say to them, what research should I have done, and what research have you ever done? And they don't even answer that because there's no such thing. They've seen a video on the internet and they think that's doing some research. You know, get out. Get out. Borrow some money from your uncle and go and see the world and open your eyes. Look around. There's a lot of countries that are living a lot better lives than the US is, and they don't have any guns at all. You know, so the first thing I want to say is to those moderate people or to those people that think that the guns are bad and should be taken away, you can do it. You can do it. The politicians will be willing to do it when they know the votes are in it. So when you've got more than 52% of the American population saying that we don't want the guns will go. You can do it. Once the laws change, look, it's, you know, our Constitution, like that comedian said, the Constitution's been amended since it was written. You know, you can change it. You know, you can evolve. America can evolve. America can say, okay, look, we're not the same country that we were 300 years ago. You know, it's now the 21st century. We're going to remove this guns, or keep the amendment and just change the laws. You can do that. You right to bear arms, yeah, within reason. You still have your gun laws in different states around the country. Make a national law, jump on it. Change the fucking Constitution if you need to, and evolve into a 21st century country where, you know, people aren't toting their guns. The stuff on the internet's insane. Guys carrying AK-47s into coffee shops and shit. What a terrible... I would never take my family to a country where any fat idiot can walk into a coffee shop with an AK-47. That is just insane. That is absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And I mean, that must do terrible things to the country. I mean, I mentioned the other day, European people laugh their asses off at America because it just looks so primitive. It's an embarrassment. And I've said that to some of those gun nuts too. They're an embarrassment. You know, that the Americans I know are intelligent, well-balanced, good people. You know, and I'll just mention this, some of you haven't heard this before. I've got American friends here in Japan. I've had American friends in Australia. I've spent 3 months in America, and I had one of my best friends from school was now an American ambassador in a European country. Now, I'm not going to mention who it was, but one of my friends is an American ambassador. So, you know, I love Americans. That's why I'm doing this. And those reasonable, good Americans need to stand up to the gun nuts and say, you know, sorry, but we're going to take them away. And don't be scared. I mean, all that stuff that they go on and on and on about, it's inevitably that stuff. Some of that stuff's going to soak in. That one of the biggest problems, I think, is the connection between freedom and the gun thing, and it's just bullshit. It is just absolute bullshit. Look at all the other countries that have got their independence and gone from being under tyrannical governments to being free, to having democracies based on people power, but no guns. You know, no guns, and there's so many examples of that where the people have just said, no, we want to change the way things are done here, and they've just changed it without guns. You don't need guns. That whole fantasy is bullshit anyway. What are you going to fight the American military? The American military are some of your most patriotic Americans. You know, it's not going to happen. You're going to get Billy Bob and his AK-47 fighting the American military. If he does, he's going to lose. But that whole fantasy about how fighting the tyrannical government, who's the tyrannical government? It's not the fat pricks sitting in their big offices. It's the military you're talking about. You're talking about Billy Bob fighting the American military. And I made a joking video about that previously, but you know, it's a joke. It's a joke. That whole fantasy is a joke. You know, and you get 1 million Billy Bobs. They're still not going to beat the American military. It's not going to happen. You know, and the other thing is, it's not going to happen. What will happen is, and this will happen one day, guys, and you guys can make it happen. The American people can make this happen soon if you want to, because it's so close at the moment. You can see what's happening at the moment. It's swaying backwards and forwards. It's just not over the line enough for the politicians to run with it, because those pricks just want to keep their jobs, right? So you need to get more than 50% of the population consistently against the guns to get it to change. And as soon as you do, and the politicians can see that, they want to keep their jobs, and as soon as enough people are active about this, and I mean, you can be active, you don't have to be marching in the street if you don't want to, but you know, when you see a good point on Facebook, or you see a video about the guns that you agree with or whatever, share it around, because the gun nuts are active. The gun nuts are right into it. They're so keen for their guns. They're right into it. They're posting comments and sharing stuff and copying bullshit that they've read. That, you know, They haven't thought about it all, but you know, those guys are really active. And that's one thing these videos have really pointed out. The gun nuts are really active. They're really motivated because they want to keep their guns. So, you know, the intelligent people need to be as active. You guys need to be, you know, sharing when you see something on Facebook or Twitter or somewhere else that's a really good point about the guns, you know, share it. And when you see a video that you agree with on the internet, share that. This one, this is a matter of interest too. What I've noticed is the gun nuts are more keen to make their aggressive comments in the comment section. I think a lot of reasonable people who just don't want to get involved in that. The gun nuts will make their aggressive comments, but interestingly, look at the thumbs up, thumbs down button down there underneath the video, because every gun nut video has had more thumbs up than thumbs down. Isn't that interesting? And that was the other thing that encouraged me to make this video, as I noticed that today. It was like, hey, look, every gun nut video has got a lot more thumbs up than thumbs down, even with all these aggressive gun nuts on there abusing me. Now, for sure, they've all thumbs down the video, but the thumbs up have beaten it. Now, that's the point. That's the point, is you're living in a democratic country there. If you can get more than 50% of the people recognising that your country is going to be better without the guns, you can get rid of them. You don't need them to defend yourself against a tyrannical government. You don't need it. America's strong enough. The people in America are strong enough that, and you've seen this throughout your history, you've changed most of the stuff, ignoring the revolution, right? You know, the last 100 years, you guys have changed more in your own country through protest than you have through violence. You know, and you know, look at your Martin Luther King and all the people who've changed American society for the better. And you've done that. You haven't done that using violence. You've done that using the people power and your voices, and that's what's going to continue to be the case. You don't need the guns. That's bullshit. That's just bullshit that's been programmed in from different sources over the years, and it's just not true, is it? You guys know that. So you don't need your guns to defend yourself against a tyrannical government. Your guns don't make you safer. And it's too easy to check that for yourself. Check the real statistics, not the gun nut statistics. Check the real statistics compare your own crime figures with the crime figures around the world. There's no difference between Australians and Canadians and Americans. There's no difference between people. You know, it's just the stuff like this, and collect the guns. And this the big thing about don't believe that bullshit, then only the criminals will have guns. No, they won't. The criminals have guns at the moment is because you're handing them out. You're selling them to people every day, and then eventually they make their way to the criminals. Remington and Smith & Wesson and all those guys don't make a gun and then sell it to criminals. What happens is they make a gun, they sell it to a legal person who sells it to a legal person who then loses it, has it stolen for some other reason. And that's where all the guns keep finding their way into the hands of the criminals. When you start doing the opposite, when you start collecting the guns and crushing them, you know, do a buyback like they did in Australia where they pay for the gun, you get paid market value. So if the Smith & Wesson would cost, you know, $500 to buy, that's what the government will give you for it. $500, they crush it. And they collect all the guns. And it's still worth it because the money you'll save through not having the guns out there with all those people being killed and everything else, it makes it worth it. Start collecting them in. And then what you'll find is most legitimate people, when you change the law, most of the good people go, okay, fair enough, the laws, you know, changed, okay, well, the gun just sits in the cupboard anyway. I'll take it out and I'll hand it in and I'll get the cash, thank you very much. And then those people, that's the same thing that happened in Australia. I did that. I didn't have to hand in my guns, by the way. I had guns because of my job that I was licensed to carry, which meant that when they changed the laws in Australia, I didn't have to hand my guns in. And when they did the buyback, I didn't hand them in straight away. About a year later, I decided that it got me thinking. That's when my thinking changed and I handed mine in and got my money for them. And that's what my friends did too. I had friends that had guns as well. And they just handed it in and got the money. Because they're just sitting in the cupboard gathering dust anyway. Occasionally you go out and bang, 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 shoot a target. Well, then we took up other hobbies. You know, we took up other hobbies that didn't involve shooting pieces of paper or fucking animals or whatever. So collect the guns. And this the criminals, no, the criminals won't have them. Because what you do is, of course, is straight away when you start collecting them, then the black market value of the guns goes up, so they become really expensive to buy anyway. And then the penalties can be increased because, you know, obviously then you can make stiffer penalties because there's going to be less guns around, make stiffer penalties. Now, that's not going to stop a lot of the criminals. They don't give a shit about the penalties, but it means that when you catch them, you take the gun off them and put them in jail. And, of course, that's one less criminal with a gun, which is a good thing. It also gives you, if you've got aggressive, violent people who are legally carrying guns, it gives you another reason to put them away. and then there will be criminals who will be put off. I mean, not all criminals are stupid. You know, there will be criminals. If a criminal watches his friend go to jail for 5 years because he was carrying a gun, he's going to think twice before he carries one too. And as there becomes less guns, those guys feel less inclined towards carrying guns as well. And because a lot of this is fear. A lot of the reason that people carry guns is fear. And you see that with the gun nuts in their comments. They're scared to death. You know, and that's the other thing, is as there's less guns in your society, people become less scared. You know, someone made the comment about gun being a great equaliser. Well, not really, if everyone has a gun, you know. She was saying, oh, it was a woman, and she was saying, oh, because guns make it, they're an equaliser. If I have a gun, I'm equal. Well, no, you're not. You're assuming that the guy that comes in through your bedroom window doesn't have a gun in her fantasy. He's not really coming in through her bedroom window, but her fear is he will. And she's assuming that he won't have a gun. Well, he lives in America in 2015. He probably will have a gun because you've all got guns. But if he doesn't have one, he's going to be less hesitant to come through your window. There's that other argument. If everyone's got guns, people won't commit crime. Well, if that was true, America would have a very low crime rate, wouldn't it? Which it doesn't. So obviously that's not true, is it? You know, if everyone has a gun, there'll be no crime. You know, the states with no guns have lots of crime. Really? Really? All your states have lots of crime. If that was true, there'd be no crime in the US, right? But there's lots of crime. 200 million guns hasn't stopped it. And in actual fact, it means that your bad guys have got guns. If you take away all the guns, there'll be less guns, less bad guys with guns. That scrawny, weedy little guy on the street isn't going to be as brave when he doesn't have a gun. He's much less likely to come climbing through your window if he doesn't have a gun or carjack your car. You know, he's a weedy little dweeb without a gun. He's not going to have the courage to do any of that. It's just so obvious. It is just so obvious. So what I'm encouraging people to do is get active. Get active. Let's stop the guns. Any gun nut supportive bloody bullshit on this page, people writing their shit about why guns are great, I'm going to delete it. They can post it on their channel, okay? This is slowly becoming a really strong anti-gun channel, this channel. It started off with just a bit of a comment, but I'm getting stronger and stronger about it. As I'm getting this kickback from these dickheads, I'm getting stronger and stronger about it. So if they want to post their pro-gun nut shit on their channel, they can do that. They've got freedom of speech to do that. And I can stop all comments if I want to, but I'm not. I want to allow comments on here, but I don't want this channel to be a platform for the same shit. I've not heard one, I've heard hundreds and hundreds of pro-gun comments, and not one of them has been original or thought out. All of it's repeated, rehashed shit. And as soon as you point out, that's bullshit. If that was true, there'd be no crime in America. If that was true, the whole world would be doing it. Any time you point out something like that, these guys just they move to the next cut and paste that they've got from somewhere on the internet. You know, it's just bullshit. So what I'm saying is, first of all, just do the passive stuff. If you're too scared of the gun nuts and getting hassled by them, you don't want to get hassled by them, that's fair enough. Just click the thumbs up on this video for a start. Let's just show down here the voting strength that pro-life people, the anti-gun people, you know, let's show the strength, show the gun nuts, how many people, because that's the thing, they're not going to take our guns, they're never going to take our guns. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. So let's show them. Thumb up the video if you think that, yes, we should take the guns out of the society. And then anywhere else you see on the internet, in public, in what do you call it, in social media, or anywhere else you see it where you get an opportunity, support it. Support the anti-gun thing. Get rid of the guns. And they will. They'll collect them in. And then there's people, you know, they're not going to take my guns. I'll fight till the death, all that sort of bullshit. 99.9% of those people are not going to fight to the death. 99.9% of those people are going to hand in their guns. You know, they're going to say to their wife or their mother or whoever, I'm going to fight to the death for my gun, and their wife or their mother's going to say, no, you're not. Take the gun and hand it in at the buyback centre and get the $1,000. And we'll go and have a holiday. You know, you don't need the damn gun. That's 99.9% of them. They're just going to go, oh, okay, and they're just going to hand in the gun. And then the 0.1%, the crazy Billy Bob guy who locks himself in a bunker up in the mountains, he's going to lose. You know, the person, if they really love their gun that much, they're prepared to die for it. Well, they probably will, because once you change the law, the cops are going to collect them. There was guys in Australia that said all that shit. I can't remember one example of that. One dickhead left a comment and said 1,000 people were killed by the government during the Australian buyback. That's bullshit. I can't remember one confrontation. There were guys that said that. There were guys that said they'd do that. That, oh no, I've got a bunker and I'm gonna fight and all that sort of thing. I cannot remember one story at the time of the gun buyback or since. I can't remember one story of anybody in Australia fighting to the death to keep their guns. I mean, who's going to do that? What's the point of having the gun to save your life if you're going to give up your life to have the gun? I mean, that's an irrational, Rambo-y. It's just irrational. It's just irrational. I'm going to defend my rights to my gun. Well, yeah, okay. So if a small percentage of your population decide they're going to do that, if half a dozen Billy Bobs in the mountains decide they're going to do that, well, they can do that if they want to. It's their choice. No doubt law enforcement and whoever else is sent to get them will give them an opportunity to surrender, and if they don't, well, they probably will give up their lives. But it won't be 16,000 people, I guarantee you. There's not 16,000 Americans who are going to give up their lives to have a gun. Now, the guys on the internet all say they will, but they're all full of shit. You know, take that gun out of my dead hand. No, bullshit. No, they won't. They go, oh, here you go. Sorry, here you go. Give me my $1,000. Give me my $500 for the gun buyback. And Australia's gun buyback, there was an amnesty for a year, and it didn't matter whether you had the gun legally or not. It didn't matter where you got it from. That you could just hand in a gun and get the money for it, and it was good money because it was market value for whatever the gun was. And it was good money. So you'll get criminals who will be stealing guns from other criminals to hand them in because they'll get the money. And it worked. That's why it worked. That's why it worked. And all this bullshit about crime's gone up in Australia. Well, in actual fact, the population's gone up in Australia since then, and there has been some crime in Australia since then, but compare it to America. You know, and Australians and Americans are the same. We came from the same background. We've got the same ethnic mix and the same mix of people that have come from, you know, all around the world to live there. It's the same. It's the same people, you know, and it's not, you know, anybody who believes that those thousands and 10,000s of guns that were crushed hasn't made a difference to Australia, you know. Doesn't matter. Whatever they think doesn't matter. So get active. Get active. Let's take the guns off them. Let's take the guns off the nut jobs. And most of them will just hand them in and get them back. You know, America would be such a better place. It really would. It would be so much better, you know. Collect them in. It'll solve so many of your problems. It really will, you know. No wonder your police are so jumpy. They'll get less jumpy, you know. Sack your bad cops, keep your good cops. Everyone will be able to relax a little bit more because we're not worried about everybody having a gun. You know, the handful that are left out there, the black market price of them is going to go through the roof because the gun buyback's going to set the rate at the market value, so that the black market ones are going to have to be much more expensive than that. And then you keep collecting, there's going to be less and less of them there, and you know, it's going to be a much better place to live. It really will. You know, it really will. You'll be saving lives, and it'll just be much more civilised.